One of the biggest challenges I've found in homesteading in a remote area is maintaining a steady cash flow without the ability to maintain a regular job in town. And so although I had a house to build, I once again found myself working on Paul's projects in order to buy food and supplies. I moved many loads of soil from the lab down to base camp in Paul's old dump truck, before Evan and I load the excavator onto a trailer to bring it down to base camp as well. Evan took on the slightly terrifying task of driving the excavator up onto the tilt trailer. And then we made sure that it was securely tied down with chains before making the slow journey down to base camp. Once at base camp, Evan had the equally exciting task of offloading the excavator from the tilt trailer. Whoa. He then quickly got to work moving around all that soil I had brought down from the lab. Paul wanted to make these berms as tall as possible to complete some designs he's been planning since he bought the place. Next in my quest for bounty, I used some very simple tools to clean up a rather big mess. Earlier in the summer, someone had grossly overestimated the power of Paul's tractor while trying to pull this trailer up a very steep hill. The trailer ended up well off the bottom of the road, and getting it back on was a matter of many straps, a few come-alongs, some chains, and lots of cranking. Each crank on the come-along brought me about a quarter-inch closer to my goal, and the whole thing took about 4 to 5 hours. This video is sped up about 380 times. After a lot of sweat and a lot of patience, I was able to get the trailer back up on the road and hooked up to the tractor, which could easily handle backing it down the hill. The next day, I found myself back behind the wheel of the tractor, using a drag bucket to grade a recently built road up to the top of the volcano. A lot of the road was basically cut out of the bedrock, which made for some difficult grading, while Evan used the excavator to widen some of the scarier parts of the road. All of this was in preparation for driving the dump truck up to the top of the volcano, so that the last bit of road could be finished. I wasn't too confident in the safety of the road or the dump truck, so while I opted out at this portion of the job, Josh tried his hand at driving the dump truck. While they had a little bit of difficulty, they did end up getting to the top of the volcano. However, once they started moving loads to finish the last portion of the road, the dump truck ended up breaking its drive shaft. Thankfully, it happened in a safe spot where the truck could be parked until the drive shaft could be replaced. Meanwhile, back at the ant village, Jim was busily working on his house. He got the whole front and windows installed, not to mention installing his roof and covering the entire structure in used billboards, which serve as a moisture barrier when the whole thing is buried in earth. Kai was also making progress on his structure, getting his roof beams installed and doing some work to the surrounding area. After doing a lot of work for Paul, instead of working on my house, I found myself in a junkyard in Spokane, looking for parts and trying to fix my truck, which was now misfiring and running very poorly. After Mike Gaither's visit, I realized I was making far too many compromises in order to get my bathhouse done before winter. So instead of building a subpar structure, I decided to spend the rest of the fall preparing materials for next spring, and spend this winter elsewhere, working and saving up money so that I could return next spring and be able to focus fully on my projects. But now, with a broken vehicle and no way of traveling, I found myself moving on to Plan B, which was spending the money I just made on a unit of lumber, which would allow me to quickly build a small structure and at least stay dry this winter. This is probably what I should have been doing months ago. And though it looks like I didn't get a lot done this year, and I made a lot of mistakes, I certainly have learned a lot of valuable lessons, which will help me in the future.